Hello everyone, my name is Klutys and welcome to the Iron Bars. Yes, so we are back on the Iron Bars and we are back with a bang because we have a currently happening case here in South Africa of Kirsten Klutys. I've covered this story in an introductory video the last time. Now we are going into the bail hearing of Bafana Mahungela and the crazy things that I've been hearing during his bail application while he was submitting and saying things that made me squint my eyes a little bit and kind of like, okay, whatever. But all of these things that I'm going to be saying in this video are allegations still, because it is still at a magisterial level and it has not gone to trial yet. And neither has he been found guilty of the murder of Kirsten Klutys. So we have no facts right now. Again, I did the best that I could to dig for his background. Who is Bafana Mahungela? What's his background and all of that? The only thing I could come across is the same thing that I already told you guys in the previous video. So now let's go to the bail hearing. You guys already know. Okay, let's do some recap. A 34-year-old woman by the name of Kirsten Klutys was murdered or found murdered by her fellow runners. It turned out that upon her death, she was actually pregnant. So in my mind, when I heard of this, the first thing that came across my mind, I've covered this case in this very channel of Tshegofatso Pule and Ntutuko Shoba. Remember, Tshegofatso was a young lady that fell pregnant by a married man. This married man had made her commit the word abort before, and as a result of that, she fell pregnant again, and he still did not want the baby, and he was trying to force her to commit another abort. You know what I'm trying to say here? And so this time around, she said she's not going to do that. She's keeping the baby, and this is during lockdown, the quarantine days in June of 2020. And as a result of that, he devised a plan on how to get rid not only of the baby, but of Tshegofatso and the baby together. And then he hired a hitman, one of his friends that he went to school with, who turned around and basically ratted out on him that he is the mastermind behind the death of Tshegofatso Pule. So in my mind, I thought the same thing. I'm like, oh my goodness, we are not having a Tshegofatso Pule 2.0 here. Who's the father of the child that Kirsten is pregnant? And what's his marital status? That's the first thing that came across my mind before a suspect was arrested. Of course, you cannot blame some of us who do this sort of videos on a daily, because we come across these sort of things. So it turned out because she was pregnant, she decided not to run on My Run event on that particular day when she was murdered. Considering that she was pregnant, I would understand why she did not run. Unfortunately, her decision to walk was her demise. Now let's talk about the autopsy report, because there were rumors that when she was found naked by her fellow runners. Now, how did they come across that she was missing? Is because her belongings were still at the club when the whole event had concluded. And when they tried to call around to find out if she had reached home, they said no, she did not arrive home. So what did they do? They traced her through her performance system, those watches, those watches that runners use. And that is exactly where it took them, where she was found dead and naked. We'll get to how she got naked. So let me read you the autopsy report article that I found at the City Press. Kirsten Klutys' cause of death revealed as head trauma, strangulation, and smothering. Slain Johannesburg school teacher Kirsten Klutys' cause of death was blunt force head trauma, strangulation, smothering, and pressure to the neck. That's according to a post-mortem report that was revealed in the Alexandra Magistrates Court on Wednesday during the bail application of the man accused of her. That word that starts with an R and ends with an E, which I cannot say on YouTube, and murder. Klutys, who was 14 weeks pregnant with a baby boy at the time of a brutal murder on the 29th of October, was attacked at George Leah Park in Parkmore, Johannesburg, after she took part in the My Run event. The 34-year-old's naked body was found by runners who participated in the event. The man accused of attacking her is a 21-year-old varsity college student who was nabbed by police on the 29th of November after he was seen on CCTV footage walking out of George Leah Park wearing Klutys' blue t-shirt and carrying her other clothes that she was wearing on that fateful day. Post-mortem report, the accused lawyer's advocate Itumeleng Masako read out Klutys' post-mortem report in court that was provided by the state. The report indicated that she suffered multiple injuries, including blunt force trauma to the head, strangulation, and pressure to the neck, with an undermined cause of death. The report also revealed that the Delta Park High School teacher's pelvis was still intact, with no obvious injuries to her genitalia. So this dispelled a lot of rumors that the reason why she was found naked is because she was essayed. The postmortem says that did not happen. There's no evidence that showed that she was essayed. So how did the police find the perpetrator so quickly? It turns out that the park where Klutys' body was found, there are CCTV footages, and that is how the police managed to see the person that was possibly could have killed Klutys. So on the CCTV footage, a young man is seen wearing a blue t-shirt that was last seen worn by Kirsten Klutys on the day of the event. As I've mentioned in my previous video, he is a 21-year-old college student by the name of Bafana Mahungela. So during the bail hearing, there are some things that kind of shocked me. Many things. In fact, I've got many questions. I don't want to lie. So many questions, starting with the upbringing of Bafana Mahungela. I understand that he has a father and a mother. And as I was reading through, checking his background, I discovered that both his parents have separated or divorced. There are other 4 siblings that Bafana has. We don't know their names. I'm not interested as well to tell you what their names are. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that the parents were separated. And after the parents separated, I'm not sure who raised Bafana, between his father and his mother. Or maybe there was a third party that probably was a grandparent, an aunt. I'm not quite sure. Because there is something that's very disturbing for me. While Bafana was busy testifying, basically making an application why he should be granted bail, some of the things that he said did not make African cultural sense. Like death, for example. I will talk about that as I go along with this video. What death means to African people, particularly here in South Africa. I'm not going to speak about other African countries. Maybe I need to also zoom in into one culture, one particular culture, which is me. I'm a Zulu person, and we are taught things about death and how we should treat death throughout our lives. And from what I am seeing, or what I heard Bafana was telling the court, is the total opposite of what his upbringing ought to have been when it came to the subject of death. So during his bail application, Bafana made an admission that indeed, as he was walking along the George Leah Park in Parkmore, he came across what looked like a blanket that was covering an object. So what did he do? He became curious and went and unveiled what was underneath the blanket. And this is when he saw what looked like a body of a woman face down. And this is when he turned it up. And then he tried to check the pulse to see if the woman was still alive. This is when he realized that actually she is dead. Now, this is where the upbringing, the home training would kick in. Number one, this individual is dead. What do? You do not proceed to do other things to the body. You either run away, what I would have done. I would have run away, but in running away, I would still have been concerned about the body that I saw. By doing what? By telling somebody that is my elder. He lives on campus. On campus, there are all kinds of elderly people. There are counselors that he could have gone to and said, listen, I was walking down this park and I came across this body and I don't know exactly how I'm going to be assisted in telling the police. Yes, the police would have wanted a statement from him, but that would not have meant that he is the guilty party. The first thing that came to mind was that, oh, she's a 34-year-old young woman. She's pregnant. By whom? That's when the Takofatso Pule case came to mind, that maybe she was impregnated by a married man who probably told her to eliminate. But she decided to keep the baby anyways, and maybe this man took this step of deleting her and made it look like she was robbed. That is why she was found naked, and basically tried to distort the evidence. That's the first thing that came to mind. So why did he say then to the police that after he discovered her body, he proceeded to strip her naked because he was afraid that his DNA was on her? So in my mind, I'm like, okay, wait. If you are talking of DNA, I would be worried too if I'm responsible for the murder of this particular individual, especially where my DNA might be found on this body through strangulation or any kind of killing through body contacts. But now, why you are saying I stripped her naked because I was afraid that my DNA was going to be found on her? So now when you found out that she is dead and possibly your DNA might be on her, why then take her clothes, her blue t-shirt, by the way, and take off your own top and wear a dead woman's clothes? I'm not quite sure how he got through high school, because during high school you would have learned something about DNA and cross termination of DNA, where if I wear something that you wear, your DNA and my DNA are going to cross contact or something like that. The irony of saying I'm running away from from being accused of killing her because my DNA might be found on her, but you take her clothes and you wear it, that does not make sense at all. He proceeds to tell the court during his bail application that he did not want to get involved. That is why he did not call the police. In my mind, I'm like, no, sir, you're already far involved the moment you stripped her naked. He proceeds to tell the court that the reason why he took off her pants is because he wanted the shoes or something like that. And in order to get to the shoes, he needed to remove her pants. Now, again, you guys, I told you a story that I experienced when I used to jog, right? That they were looking for the clothes that I was wearing and the shoes that I was wearing. What are the possibilities and that he is one of those people, a student for that matter? I don't know what his financial status are or what his financial difficulties are that made him think, let me go to a jogging trail and mug the joggers of their clothing and the gadgets and sell them and make money. I'm not quite sure how often he's been doing this type of activity to the joggers, because joggers in Sandton now have created a group. When they jog as a group. Why? Because they are afraid that they are being targets of criminals. So what if he's one of those? So what happened when he met with Kirsten Klutys? Again, these are allegations. I'm not saying it is true or he's the one who has done it. So Mr. Bafana Mahungela tells the court that the only admission that he made to the police is that he stripped her naked. And if this is a crime, that's the only crime he is willing to confess, because the death, he is definitely not involved. The other thing that got me concerned was the fact that he told the court that the other reason why he did not call the police or for help is because when he was in high school, he was almost arrested. And the question I was asking myself, almost arrested of what? What did you do? And then I had more questions about his attitude towards women. I would like to know what sort of a boy he was. What was he taught growing up by his father, by his uncles, by male figures in his life? That also includes his friends. As he continued to submit for his bail application, he talked about why he wore her clothes. And then in my mind, I was like, wait, now let's talk about the African culture when it comes to death. The Zulu people, this is me. We were brought up that death is to be respected at all costs. The last thing that you want to do is to fiddle or mess around with a dead body. If you see a dead body, run and report it to somebody that is older. They will know what to do, irrespective of how old you are. Because at that moment, you saw something that you shouldn't have seen. And therefore, your mind is a little bit messed up and you probably need to tell somebody. The best place to do so when you come across a dead body is to go to the police station. You do not, number one, unveil what's underneath the blanket. And once you've unveiled what is underneath the blanket and see it's a human dead body, you leave it there and then you run and get help. You do not take anything that a dead body was wearing and put it on you. Even when people that have passed on, what do? We don't wear their clothes. They are not passed down. They are either burnt or they are buried with the deceased. Now, with this young man, he sees a dead body of a woman, turns her around, and then strips her naked, take one of her clothing items, and put it on his body and walks away, leaving the dead body by itself dead and naked. I don't know what his upbringing is. I don't know who brought him up between his mom and dad, and why the subject of death did not come across during home training is what I want to know. Because as I understand it, they are part of the Ngoonies. I could be wrong. And the Ngoonies, they take death very, very seriously. Now, this also generated a whole lot of questions, especially in regards to what he told the court about when he was in high school, he almost got arrested for a crime. And the question I asked myself, is it a similar crime as to this one that he's currently accused of, or maybe something totally different? So the first thing that came running across my mind, number one, I'm looking at him. He's a 21-year-old that goes to Varsity College, a private tertiary institution in Sandton. To me, the family status says they are moneyed, they are rich, they got money. And then if you look at rich people, most of their children, again, I'm not saying this is true with all rich people, some of these kids are spoilt. They don't see a wrong and there's no consequences for a wrong deed they have committed. So what are the chances that Bafana Mahungela is also one of those spoiled brats that sees no or experiences no consequences for his action? Or what social status does his parents have? Either the mother or the father or both. What positions do they hold in communities? Are they community leaders, or they are known to be that wealthy family nobody touches? That is why he was almost arrested for a crime that possibly he may have committed. How did he get away from that crime? Who did what in order for him not to go to jail? Between his parents or whoever that was his legal guardian when he committed this crime in high school. So in my mind, I am saying, again, these are allegations. Nothing of this, what I'm saying, is a fact. I do not know the facts, but I think Bafana Mahungela has something to cough up in his chest. And I think the only person that can assist him cough this up is his father. We saw his father wailing in court. We heard his mother proclaiming that he loves him. So if indeed this is true, if the mom says, "I love you, son," and then the father is crying so much so that he creates some kind of lump in our throats, this is the time that he starts being a father. And I know he's a father. I know you're a father. Anybody can be a father. Now it's time for you to be a dad to your son. I say your son has something to say. And the only person he can tell this to is you. Now, as a father, let me remind you, you bring up your kids to be upstanding people in society. to contribute in society and become people that are respected, people that trust and even love. And this is where honesty is one of the topics that you would have taught your children during home training. Honesty always begins with you before it goes to your children. This is the time where you demonstrate honesty, starting with yourself and demonstrating it to Bafana and demonstrating it to the other 4 children. Hold your son by the hand and tell him, son, I am here for you no matter what. But you got to tell me the truth. Be honest with me. That is you being honest, number 1. And because you are being honest, he will be honest in return with you and tell you the truth. What happened on the 29th of October, 2023? One thing I do know for sure is that Kirsten Klutys' family are now waiting for closure. And it's only you, Bafana's father, who can provide them with that closure by talking to your son. And once your son has told you the truth, ask to call the Klutys family and give them the closure they deserve. And after that, tell your son that in his new life, he must be an outstanding human being by continuing to study inside. Maybe by 35 years, he will be back home. Versus if he continues to say, I'm innocent, I'm not guilty, and he goes through a trial with the story that he's already told the magistrate's court, he stands no chance. You are going to lose him forever because he's going to be convicted to life in prison. So don't lose your son because you're thinking your love for your son is to defend him and get him the best of the best lawyers when he actually harbors the truth that could actually cut off the entire process of a trial. Because a trial can drag for a long time and the money that you've got will all be gone. I know you don't mind because it's your son. But do you want to risk your son's life by telling him to plead not guilty? I don't think you should. I don't think you should do that. He's already confessed indirectly. DNA. The only time anybody would worry about their DNA on a dead body is because they are responsible for the dead body. That's the only time you can be worried about your DNA on a dead body. Not because you opened a blanket and you saw that under the blanket there is a dead body. You turned it around. Science can tell that indeed this is the action because it's going to be supported. But again, I don't think such evidence would have been smeared on the dead body by simply opening a blanket and turning it around, because he showed, if this is true, what he's saying, he showed concern. That is why he touched the pulse and realized there's no pulse. But then what he does after that, it becomes way too milky. It becomes way too nonsensical, the story that he told the court during his bail application. Save your son by speaking to him and telling him it's okay. At 35, possibly even earlier, he'll be back home with you. Versus telling him continue to plead not guilty. He goes through a trial and the trial finds him guilty. You've lost him forever. One thing about honesty, it comes with the sense of accountability and responsibility. I am sure those are the things that you teach your children as a parent, the foundation, principles and values. That when you commit something that you should not do, there are consequences to that. And once there is a consequence, you need to take responsibility and accountable. I think that's what every parent teaches their children. I could be wrong. So if your son is indeed involved in the death of Kirsten Klutys, this is the time for you, sir, to be a father. Speak to your son He knows the truth. So just to continue with the article as I close this video, it's about the CCTV footage. Earlier, there was tension in court between the state and the defense. Masako challenged the CCTV footage taken near the crime scene that the state is relying on as part of his evidence. I think the defense here is overreaching or trying to flop at a dead horse here, because the CCTV footage is admissible in court. Somebody died, and on the footage, somebody is wearing one of the deceased clothing items. The video, which has not yet been shown in court, allegedly shows the accused following Klutys and jumping over a locked gate. It further shows the accused apparently throwing away some of her clothes near a drain. Masako argued that the state was not being fair to his client because the previous prosecutor who was assigned to the case said the video footage would not be used in court but pictures of the crime scene. Once again, I cannot understand why the previous prosecutor would be saying things like that, because I feel the CCTV footage is admissible in court. Therefore, any finding made by this honorable court hinging on the video footage shall be found to be assailable. State Prosecutor Ayanda Bakana argued that whatever was discussed between the defense and the previous state prosecutor no longer stood since he took over the case. He argued that the court was dealing with a bail application and that all evidence should be considered by the magistrate in determining whether the accused should be set free while awaiting trial. Bakana stated while the accused was not formally pleaded in court, he has maintained his innocence as he faces charges of the R-word, robbery with aggravating circumstances, and premeditated murder. These are Schedule 6 offenses, which means that for him to be granted bail, he has to show exceptional circumstances to the court on why his release is in the interest of justice. The state is opposing his bail application, arguing that his release would cause a public outcry from activist organizations that deal with issues related to gender-based violence and femicide. So that's the end of the article. I must agree with the state prosecutor here that whatever decisions that were taken between the previous prosecutor, I wonder why the previous prosecutor is the previous prosecutor, which once again brings me back to why Bafana in high school, he was not arrested for a crime he allegedly committed. I'm not sure what crime that was. I tried to dig and find out, but I couldn't find anything. What happened then? Who paid who? And what happened that made Bafana not to get arrested? And now we have a prosecutor who is a previous prosecutor. What happened is my question now. So in my next video, we are going to talk about the outcome of the bail application. So stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe, because we are definitely going to be covering this case. That also includes if it goes to trial. I will bring you all the nitty-gritties that are happening in this trial regarding the Kirsten Klutys murder. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.